Very warm good morning to all of you. I will be speaking as indicated on perspectives on priority investments for agricultural research to enhance resilience of the poor small-scale farmers in Africa. Well, I want to put forward a few personal propositions. In the context of my work in the last couple of months, one of the key elements, key documents that we have produced is what is called the Science Agenda for African Agriculture. And out of this document, a key statement that echoes through the rationale for building an Africa-owned and Africa-driven science agenda is that agricultural research on this continent is too important to be outsourced. I'll repeat that. Agricultural research in Africa is too important to be outsourced. And this is the way I always frame it. If we depend on partners and donor agencies to run agricultural research in Africa, it is synonymous to raising a family on your neighbor's kitchen. And if you do that, there are two things that can happen. It's either you have constipation or you have diarrhea. Both ways, you are not good. Having said that, we're talking about how to build resilience for the most vulnerable. And let's defragment it. We know it that close to 90% of those who produce food on this continent are small-scale farmers. As a matter of fact, I read a report 2 days ago that says that no farm is more than 100 hectares in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, I may question that, but probably that is the case. But the essence of the matter is that agricultural production in Africa is driven by small-scale farmers. And what does that mean? It means that agriculture in Africa is driven by a most vulnerable group. And that's the way it is. So for me, building the resilience of the small-scale farmers should be premised on strengthening their capacity to mitigate risks. And when I say risks, I don't think about climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. No. This is a multidimensional factor. It's a multidimensional issue, rather. And unless we actually tease out what are the underlying factors that predispose Africa and Africans to this kind of vulnerability and address them at the roots, it may still be a mirage if we think we will. To deal with the issue of resilience may still be a mirage. And when we talk about enhancing the capacities of the small-scale farmers, for me, it's a question of actually looking at how to bring science into their world, how to bring policies that recognize the peculiar situation within which the small-scale farmers are operating, and how to actually create an access to resources for them to profitably engage themselves in what they know best to do. And finally, to put in place an enabling environment. Now, if you look at all that I have said, it simply underscores the fact that there's no silver bullet to it. And as I said earlier on, we will need a multidimensional intervention to be able to deal with these challenges. Now, our core concerns will be in the following 4 or 5 areas. How to strengthen the resilience of the small-scale farmer in the face of climatic vulnerabilities, economic challenges, and many other things that may be confronting them, and the need for research to spur innovation for enhancing the resilience of the poor small-scale farmers. And then we need to look at priority areas for investment to build this resilience that has so far eluded the most important people group that are affected by this phenomenon. I was in Johannesburg December last year in a climate smart agricultural conference, and it was the third in a row. And 3 years down the line, we're still talking. There's still a lot more to be done. I mean, it goes more than talking, and I hope that actually coming to a conference like this will probably introduce the game changer of realizing that as we speak, as the second stick, livelihoods are on the line. Then the critical element is how to invest in a way that will bring mitigation and or adaptation to the key challenges and shocks for enhanced resilience. And finally, we have to adopt a futuristic approach, visioning what kind of demands we will be faced with in the next 10, 20, 30 years. Professor Abubakar just said it. Demographically, this global world will hit 9 billion. And the most of this increase will happen in Africa and Asia. So for us here in Africa, the question and what FARA has been doing is actually now to roll out two or three flagship programs, and one of them is the Adaptation for Future Demands in Agriculture, which is a part or a contributory factor to the visioning aspect of what is called the Dublin process. But given the resource constraints, there is not much that we can do without financial resources. And the challenge for us is how do we then make smart investments? I underscore the word smart. To be able to target people that can actually translate, the people who, when you invest, we've had series of reports from the World Bank, from IFPRI, from so many reputable institutions telling us that you have about anywhere between 2 to 4 fold return to investment in agriculture. But despite that, as we speak today, the number of the vulnerable is probably on the rise rather than declining. Environmentally and economically resilient agricultural production systems will become imperative. But to be able to achieve this, we will have to adopt innovations. And as I always put it, these innovations will include genetics, resource use efficiency, integrated pest management, reduced post-harvest losses, and risk management strategies. Well, each of these elements, actually, if we expand them, you can run with it for the next 5, 10 years. But suffice it to say that each of these 4 or 5 issues that I've just mentioned will be crucial for us to prioritize investments that will address the issue of research in enhancing the resilience of the poor. But I can also make a proposition that perhaps we need to look closely at climate resilience research, In other words, the climate smart agriculture, and not the talking part. I mean, I think we're done. I mean, we have enough talking. I'm actually tired of these talks. And research to develop improved drought and pest resistant crop and livestock species, research in improved crop and livestock production techniques, IPM, mixed crop, and so on, and an assessment and inventory of existing indigenous knowledge and practices in the context of climate change and resilience, research in environment and natural resources conservation, biotechnology, and research in ecotourism and community resource conservation. My time is up, and thank you so much for your attention.